Welcome to Well Since You Asked Me, the podcast where curiosity sparks conversation. I'm Len, your host. In today's episode, Dr. Adrian Johnson, superintendent of Hearn ISD, takes us inside the real world of education. From navigating politics and school vouchers to embracing AI in the classroom, he shares what it takes to lead with purpose. It's a conversation about real skills, real relationships, and why community still matters. So grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and let's get into it. I am joined today by Dr. Johnson, and I want to talk to you a little bit about your work as superintendent of Hearn ISD. I am so excited and honored to have you with me here today. I want to start off with a little bit about you and your history. I know a little bit about it, but the audience doesn't, and I want them to be able to hear the remarkable work that you've done and the journey that you're doing and what's to come.
Thank you, Len. It's exciting to be a part of your podcast and share a little bit of my story. I'm a country boy. I grew up on a farm in Central Texas, but education has always been a part of my life. The home I grew up in was a school before integration. My family had allowed the school district to use, and when they closed the school down, my parents actually moved in, and that's the house that I was raised in. Both of my parents were in education. My mother was my first teacher in life and my first teacher in school as well. And my dad was a jack of all trades. He was a bus driver, maintenance man, custodian guy, just tremendous individuals that represented the community and raised me well. So education has always been a big part of my life. Other than the desire, dream to grow up to be a professional basketball player, I knew I would be in education from the beginning when I started college. I did get a chance to play college ball at 2 universities here in Texas. And as soon as I finished college and didn't get drafted, so I began working with the special needs students in Austin, Texas at a state school. And that started my career in education. And now 40 plus years later, I'm still in education. And that journey has taken me from all different levels, from a teacher to an administrator to the associate commissioner at TEA to a superintendent in 4 different school districts around the state. So education is a big part of my life. And I love talking about it, and I love sharing the story about Hearn because it's a deeper story that many people might not be aware of.
Thank you for sharing that. It's so interesting that you knew, like it was a calling for you. Too bad for the basketball teams, but thank goodness for us that you didn't get drafted. So and when you talk about it was a calling for you, what exactly inspired you or made you want to get into education? Because sometimes we can say it's a thankless job, right? So you're doing a lot of work for the community and for the children in the community, but sometimes it's not an easy journey.
No, it's not. And education is a real challenge for anyone that's going into the field and needs to know what they're going to be facing. I think what helped me was my parents had a solid foundation in education and a solid foundation on the importance of education. When you think about my age and the age of my parents, both of them are deceased, but they came up in a time where times were really hard and they didn't have the luxuries and the technology that we have today, but yet even using textbooks that weren't new, that were hand-me-down from the white school, they were able to still educate themselves and students that they were working with to another level. So it's just been a part of me. I remember being at the all-black school at the start of the day. We're all together singing God Bless America, pledging to the flag, and praying right there at school. And for a predominantly black school, or no, all black school at that time, that was such an important foundation in our life. It became a part of our culture, part of our community. And unfortunately, we've lost some of that in this 21st.
Yeah, so you talk, and you hopefully we will get into a little bit about Hearn in general. But when you look at being the superintendent of a school, and so there's a lot of competing needs, and so you're trying to balance the needs of the students, of the community, and you're balancing that against some of the political landscape. And there are a lot of things that are happening right now, and that has to be a bit of a challenge for you. One of the things that top of mind for me would be the school vouchers.
Yeah.
And the privatization of schools. How are you managing through that? What are some of the things that you are faced with?
Well, the first thing I do, Lance, is I keep my focus as a leader in a school system. My focus is on the students and the teachers and the community that I'm working in. I do have a connection with what's happening with the legislators. I know about the voucher and the voucher bills, but I look at things a little different than some may look at it from a political perspective. people talk to me about vouchers, or I hear the word vouchers or private schools and things of that nature. I think about there are parents out there. I'm one of them. You're probably one of them, and many of your listeners are one of them that want their children to go to college. Period. There's, and so people that are in private school want their children to go to college. And people who are using vouchers probably want the best for their children. So my focus is giving that same approach to the students I'm working with. I want the parents in Hearn ISD in the schools that I'm working at to know that if you want your child to go to college, we will have a pathway for them to get there. If you want your child to be trained in some type of career in technology or whatever it might be, we have a pathway to there. If you want your child to be military based, we have a pathway there. So I don't get caught up in the debate. I listen to both sides, and then I try to extract from that want. And when you hear parents, when I hear about, you think about this is a program that will help people, even in the public schools, to get to college. There's a pathway to college. You choose a private school. There's just as many parents in the public schools that want their than there are that want their kids to go to college. I look at it a little different and don't get bogged down in the political games. The only thing I ask is that it be fair.
Yeah. And I hear that. I appreciate that because the motivators for parents and students of where they go to school, it's important to understand that and to address it. I do, for me as a parent, I do have concerns about those dollars when the dollars that are allocated to the school are being moved out. And, I appreciate you saying that you work with the parents and listen to them and try and provide these opportunities or these pathways to either career or college. But when those dollars are being taken out of the district, does that impact, or are you not seeing that in your area?
Well, we're not seeing that in our area. We're in a rural area, and uh, we don't have any private schools in our area. We may have some parents that are wanting to homeschool their children, but again, I don't fight choice because we all make choices. I do
Yes.
agree that we are watching very carefully to make sure, and our legislators are saying that they're not taking money away from the public school system to create this money for the voucher program. And all I can do is just go by what they're saying because I can't control what they're going to do. So
Right.
again, the dollars we received from the funding this year is going to help our teachers get raises. I wish we could have got more for our staff, but we'll take it and we'll appreciate it, and then we'll get together and get ready for the next legislative session and try to do more positive things for education for all of our children.
So what I'm hearing from you, and I appreciate, is that whatever noise is happening outside, you are more focused on that community and how you can build the community, build the schools, build the teachers, build the students up and those families up. In Hearn, because I do think that it's a little bit of a unique environment, tell me a little bit about your school, what you're proud of, some of the challenges and some of the things that you guys are doing that you feel that may be a model for other school districts.
Well, I was telling you, worked for the State Department, Texas Education Agency in 2006. During that time, I had the privilege of working with schools all across the state. And one of the biggest court cases in the state was Hearn versus TEA in a court case because many of the students in Hearn were being bused out of Hearn to go to another school and was making Hearn the minority majority district that it is today. And at that
Interesting.
time, the courts would side mostly with schools to say you can't do minority school. But they allowed it to happen, and it happened they won at several different levels where it was stopped. But at the Fifth Court of Appeals, they actually won the actual court case that allowed it to continue. But there was three things they said they were going to do to that district if you allowed that to continue. They said you would hurt it perception of this district, you would hurt it financially, and you hurt it academically. Now, when fast forward 10 years later, while I'm looking at retirement, I get to be the interim superintendent 10 years after that court case, and they failed to stop the students being taken out of the district. That's what I found. The perception, the financial, and the academic was in trouble in that district. I'm proud to say that in 10 years, nearly 9 years I've been there, we've improved in all those areas. We have the accreditation back up to being fully accredited. Our accountability system, which is measured by the letter grades A, B, C, D, and F, we are now we made it all the way to a B district, and one of our several campus made B. One campus made B, and the others made C. We gained our full accreditation back. We have a healthy fund balance now, and the perception is better, the finance is better, and academics better. But it took a lot of hard work to get. And unfortunately, because of the situation that district was finally to step in, they had gone through 6 different leadership changes, 6 superintendents
Wow.
before I got. And then here I am there now. This is my 9th year there, and going strong, and hope to have another strong year this year. Besides the success academically and financially, and we've had a lot of success in our athletic programs and our fine arts programs as well. So the perception of the students and of the community has seen a drastic improvement.
That's great. Fantastic. You mentioned academics. And so when you talk about academics, as a parent, this is something that I had struggled with when my kiddos were in school. So they attended private school up until middle school. And so then we were faced with the state standardized test. And I was like, whoa. So when you talk about academics, and of course we want our students to have those critical skills that are going to help them as they move towards career or college. But you also have to balance the state test. So what are some of the things that you prioritize, or how do you ensure that they're passing that test, but they're also walking away with those skills that are going to help them be successful?
Yeah, that's one of the greatest challenges we face today, is that we don't want to uh, be perceived as just teaching to the test. That's a huge challenge to the students and actually to the staff as well. And it's not fair to the students. Many of your listeners, probably like myself, went through school without taking the STAR test, without taking the Texas state test. We took tests like California Achievement Test and Iowa State Test just to see where we were. I remember being so excited when I got my results back, and I was in high school, and they said I was reading on a college level. That's all I needed to know, because if I can read on a college level, I could play basketball on a college level too.
Oh, there you go. Exactly.
So we grew up without it, but I think in the end, accountability helps our kids more because it holds schools across the state accountable for all the students. And that's the important thing to happen, is that wherever you're going to school at, somebody's looking to see how you're performing. If it's not the parents, school and the state is looking to see how you're performing. And we should never want to get away from the importance of accountability. Now, all I ask is that accountability be fair, because when you look at a Hearn, we're 95, 96% economically challenged. So that means that number is pretty significant. And that means our kids face a lot of challenges. And there's other schools that take this same test that are 100% economically advantaged.
Yes.
So how do you measure how well my students who are coming to school, many of them not reading or needing to learn to read, versus students that are coming to school that are already reading at the first or second grade level, even in kindergarten? So
Right.
a system that will be treat those kids fair. So the progress I make with my students who might not come to school already on grade level is being fairly addressed and measured with the success students who are already reading at grade level but trying to get to the next highest level. I just think this is, so what we try to do, and the curriculums have gotten so much better now, make even preparing to take the test a type of lessons that are exciting and enthusiasm. And things are getting ready to change rapidly. And this is a prediction on my part, data to document. But AI is a game changer for education. And so as you're working with your children or grandchildren, you helping them learn how to use technology to be effective in what they're doing and learning is going to be really important. And it's going to be really important to teachers and school systems to adapt to using technology where we can accelerate the learning.
And thank you for bringing that up because that was another question and topic that I wanted to talk about is the use of AI and technology in the classroom. And if that's something that the school district embraces, what are some of the challenges with it? Because some of the things that I hear is that teachers don't want it to replace the teacher. They don't want it to replace critical skills, right? So I remember one of the things that my mom would say is like, no one can make change anymore because they just have these devices that'll do it for them. And so making sure that kids can still operate in a world where they are the master of the technology and the technology is not the master of them. Is that
Yeah,
something that you guys think about?
exactly. And I would say to your mom is that people may not know how to make change, but I need to make sure I got the right change.
That's true.
And that's what you really need to know is that what you
Yeah,
give
that
me is
is
right.
very true.
And I understand that, and I may be overstating it or not seeing all the different angles, but we went through this before. Remember, computer going to make us more lazy, the calculator. So we have adjusted. Let me show you how I think AI is going to help. How I already see it helping educate children. It saves time. I was in a training session with a group of teachers, and they were working on a science objective, and they all got these big old white tablets to write down a week's worth of lessons of science to teach. I just copied the objective into Chat GPT, and it gave me, before they could even get their table and get their pencil out, a week's worth of lessons. So it could spend more time teaching and connecting with kids and take the burden off of the teachers of doing all this writing. And now we're grading. If we're going to grade the state test with all of the weight that is put on that test using AI, so much of the test is being graded by the AI system right now. So it saves time. So we're getting results back
Mhm.
quicker. Now, if we're just letting kids turn in assignments using AI and not checking them, then you're not teaching. You're just facilitating their own learning process. There's some pitfalls there, but there's a lot of benefits if people will work closely with technology and embracing it in a way that is productive.
Well, what I heard from that and what I appreciate is the fact of understanding your objective and what your objective is. And if your objective, like in the case of my mom and her money and change, your objective is to get it, is to get correct change. And so the mechanism that you use to get there can vary. And for you, if the mechanism is to make sure that you're saving time and you're teaching in a way that's going to help the students, let's say, do well on that state test, if AI supports that, then that's how we use it. And so being very strategic, that's what I took away from what you're saying. And I
Yes,
appreciate that. That's why you're the superintendent.
I appreciate that too. But no, actually, that comes from being from the country. There's
Mm,
there's there's a lot of wisdom that I learned from the people that I grew up with, their work ethic, and sounds like your mom. That's the way they used to talk and think. My parents always had little sayings that made me remember what's really important in life. And so that's where I see the importance of embracing technology, but don't just put something in your kids' hands. Don't pay. Technology should be something that allows you to spend more time with your student, not less with your
love that.
child, not less time with your child, because we can get
Yes.
through processes faster now. I can order my groceries right now and go pick them
Yes.
up when we finish this audition. I've got more time with
Right.
my kid. Now, what are you doing with that time is what's important. And so, same thing in the school system. If you can get kids engaged in their learning, and let's face it, cracking those 300 page books open and reading chapter one, everybody start reading. Now, reading is important. I'm not saying it's not important, but there's ways we can make it come to life faster and the way we can get learning to increase and to be accelerated if we use it effectively. There's no way to get away from the basics of reading, writing, and computing and numeracy. Those are important skills that you must have because you do need to know that you've got the right change. And you need to know if you're working as you're given the right change. But in the end, that is something that's like automaticity. So we're spending more
Mm,
time and doing other things with our time rather than just sitting there counting pennies.
That's very wise. I agree with that. Yeah, that's interesting. You talk about your upbringing, your mom being your first teacher, and how you were taught. And there's so many different changes in the school system. I mean, for me, I remember like reading full novels. Like that's the thing we had to do. And when the boys were coming up, my boys were coming up, they're reading passages. And so I think about what you're saying now. Like, what do we want them to learn? What do we want them to gain out of this? So when you see these shifts in the way that the teachers are teaching or the things that are important, how do you account for that? Or is that something that you think about, or how do you make sure that your teachers are getting the objective?
Yeah, what I believe is my secret sauce is relationships.
Okay.
Teachers have to have relationships with students. Students have to have relationships with their teachers. Students have to have good relationships with each other. Administrators have to have good relationship with students, good relationship with teachers. So my philosophy is I'm in the classroom, I'm in the cafeteria, I'm in the hallways. I'm building
Mhm.
relationships with, and so that's the way that I see we're making sure that students are learning and teachers are teaching, because we just can't leave the door closed with the paper over the window and just open the door up at the end of the semester to see if students are learning. You've got to be in the classroom. People can be observing you. If you're a doctor performing a major surgery on you, you can have people in the classroom observing you teaching children and knowing
Sure.
what's going on in that classroom. And when you're working with children of this day and age, it helps to have additional eyes in the classroom. So we build a lot of our teaching programs, we do a lot of our training by teachers by bringing people into the classroom to observe those teachers and to see the students and offer insight. This is an important event, and we have to realize that. And learning is highly important because you want the best for your children, and so do the other parents want the best for their children, even though they may not know how to engage the system like you do, but they're depending on the system to take care of their kids. And that is to make sure that all are being observed, all kids are being taught, all teachers have the proper support to teach effectively, and we're doing it by working together as a team, not in isolation. I don't want to wait to the end of the year to see how my students are doing. I want to know at the end of Friday how they're doing. Every Friday, I want to check
Yes,
to see how they're doing, whether it's
that makes
academically,
sense.
uh, academically, attendance. Those things are really important, and that's something we really have to
Mhm.
work on, is improving behaviors and attendance in our students.
Interesting. Very good. We're almost out of time. We have a few more minutes left. I want to talk to you two things. I want to give you an opportunity to share some pearls of wisdom, but I do want to talk to you a little bit about teachers and teacher retention, teacher, and making sure that the teachers feel the support and the admiration that they deserve. Is that something that you struggle with, teacher retention in your area? And if so, how do you address that?
Yeah, we do suffer with teacher retention, and there's a natural retention problem because we're a small rural school. My
Mhm.
dad says, he used to always say, "Isn't it strange how people always, superintendents and teachers, always called, but they're called to bigger churches and bigger schools." Small schools have the problem, one, financially to be able to compete, but now thanks to the legislature, we've got teachers that are making really good money in education. We're a TIA district. So we have students, teachers getting 30,000, from 8,000 to $30,000 for the next 5 years because they've been showing progress in the performance of the students. So that is so important for the rural school, because if you can keep quality teachers in your rural schools like this, then that helps that whole campus and that whole district perform better. Because we all want that for our children, whether you're a small school,
Absolutely.
rural school, mid-size, or large school. You want what's best for your child. And so keeping the teacher retention and trying to do innovative things to keep them engaged is something that we constantly look at. And we do a lot of growing our own programs with our teachers and with our students to help them appreciate the field of education and stick with the field of education.
Yes, well, they're very important. Last question, the well, since you asked me, is there anything else that you can share about either your experience being a superintendent or Hearn in general that may be of interest?
Well, I just think that the one thing I think about when I think about wanting to talk to parents in Hearn and around the state is don't you don't you're you have to understand the importance of education. It is vitally important. Don't let your child's education just be handled by the school. You have to get up and know what's going on. Not to where you're a burden on the school, but at least ways to check in. And again, when we talk about technology, that should be so easy to do. In the old days, they had to write a letter or, go to the dial phone and stuff like that. But now
Right.
you text kids. Sometimes I text parents in class to say, "Hey, you're not going to believe what your child is doing," and they're doing something really good. It's
That's
not always
awesome.
bad.
Yes. Yes.
So
That's
you want
great.
to let them know that I want the people to know that education is really important. It's more important now than it's ever been in our lives because it's changing so rapidly. So stay engaged with the schools. Uh, People worry about the private school vouchers. Just look for good teachers in schools. And if you ever want to find the good teachers, I have a secret.
So
See what the teachers' children, whose class they're in.
very good. Very smart. Yes. This has been very helpful. So we're almost out of time here. And so I'm going to end this with our signature, well, since you asked me. So you mentioned that you've been at the school district for almost 10 years and you'd hinted at maybe retiring. What are a couple of things on your bucket list? Like when you're like, I'm done with
I'm not going to be done for a while yet.
I didn't think so.
Somebody asked Morgan Freeman, who's one of my favorite actors, how long are you going to keep making movies? He said, as long as I can get out of bed. And
Yes.
I'm going to keep working with kids. Now, I enjoyed my journey there in Hearn, and it's still going strong. I have written a book on leadership, and I like to do speeches and things of that nature. I want to help train others to get to the next level. So if I was to walk away from Hearn, or where they asked me to walk away from Hearn, it would be into consulting and working with other people.
I love that.
I like networking and helping people have their dreams come to a reality.
Well, Dr. Johnson, what's the name of your book? Because I'd like to put that in the show notes as well.
Reality Leadership 2.0.
We'll put that in the show notes so people check that out. And we want to hear more of you. So whenever you have opportunities to share and to speak with the community, we're definitely going to dial in. But for this, I appreciate having you on. It's taken us a minute to get there. I'm so glad I was introduced to you. I appreciate everything that you're doing. I always elevate teachers and educators, and you're definitely one of those. And I know that Hearn appreciates you as well.
Yeah, they even named me as Superintendent of the Year for Region 6 this year. So now
Nice.
I was really appreciative of that recognition. But thank you for having me and for focusing on such an important areas of education. We need more people to have this type of topic and get our parents and our community well educated on education.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, that's a wrap for this edition of Well, Since You Asked Me. I hope this conversation left you with something to think about, something to question, or maybe even something to share. The Well, Since You Asked Me podcast is a production of the SME Media Group, LLC. All rights are reserved. Be sure to check out our other podcast, I Take Your Point, exclusively on YouTube. I would like to thank our executive producer, John Dunson, audio and video technician, Ryan Sexton, and graphic designer, Ellen Jacobs. Please share, like, and subscribe, spread the word, and until next time, stay curious, stay open, and keep asking the questions that matter. Bye.